Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar in relation to the Masters in Domestic Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Studies, which is starting in DKIT in September. So my name is Kathleen Allen, and I'm the project lead for the River Project, which is in relation to domestic sexual and gender-based violence. So as you probably know, we launched the Masters last Friday in DKIT. It was launched by Margaret Loftus. Some of you may have been there. It was a very, I think, impactful event. So we're joined this evening I'm going to introduce my colleagues that's here with us. I'm going to introduce them in the order that they will be speaking. So we have Dr. Anita Byrne with us. Anita is a senior lecturer in the School of Health and Science, and she's also a lecturer in midwifery and teaches on our DSGBV programs. And we've Dr. Lisa Marmion, who's a research assistant with the River Project. And Lisa also teaches and assesses on our DSGBV programs. We have Dr. Michelle Walsh, who's the CEO of Move Ireland. And some of the modules that we'll be speaking about were co-designed in collaboration with Move Ireland. We have Dr. Breach King, who's the head of Department of Nursing Midwifery and Early Years. And we're also joined this evening by Dr. Gillian Lamb. Gillian is the head of part-time programs in DKIT. And we have Jonathan Davis with us from the Marketing and Communications Department. And Jonathan is going to provide technical support, and he'll monitor chat and Q&As for us. And you can also probably see that it's recorded. So this recording then will be available on the Masters website, and we'll also get it onto the River Project website as well, so people can view it there. And we'll also get it out to the community of practice. So just in terms of how this is going to pan out this evening, I'm just going to give you an overview, just a brief overview of the River Project, talk about the other programs that are running, and then we're going to get into the details of the Masters program. And my colleagues then will join, and they will speak about the individual modules. We're going to take questions at the end, but during the session, you can feel free to put questions into the chat, but we will go through them at the end, if that's okay with people. And then after that, then Breach is going to, after she talks about the research modules, Breach will talk to you about the application process and the entry criteria and fees. And then we'll go into the Q&As at the end. That's okay. Okay, so as I said, some of you are familiar with the River Project. So it is in progress now since March 2023. It was funded by the Higher Education Authority. We got over 800,000 from them, and that project, as it stands, is due to end in September, but we are very hopeful that funding will be provided and that we will continue on. And I suppose just to offer reassurance, because I've got some emails in relation to this, regardless now of whether River continues or not, the Masters program and all the other programs will continue. They are now part of the department, part of the school, so they will run as normal. But we are, as I said, very optimistic that the River will also be running. So just some of the outputs, some of the things that we've done, I suppose, as part of the River Project. There's a podcast series, Insights into Domestic Sexual and Gender-Based Violence. A lot of interviews there with people working in the sector, also victims, survivors, etc. That's available on our website. It's on YouTube, and it's also available on Spotify. There are also 8 education and training videos in relation to DSGBV, and they are also available to the community of practice. If anyone hasn't received them, you can email info@riverproject.ie, and we will share them with you. We have quite a vibrant community practice. There's approximately 1,300 members on our mailing list, and that's from north and south. And we've had 3 conferences and approximately 14 workshops. And we also, part of that, something that we developed was In Their Shoes toolkit and In Their Shoes workshops. And we actually have had 5 in the last year. We had the last one on Friday, and that's been very well attended. So this master's program that we're talking about this evening, so this is in addition to other accredited programs in the area of domestic sexual gender-based violence. So our level 8 program, which is 20 credits, it has been running since 2016. We also have a program that just started this year, which is a certificate in fundamentals of coercive control. It's a level 8, what's known as a micro-credential, just 5 credits. So both of those programs are going to continue as normal, and they will run again this September. We've had about 350 graduates, actually possibly more at this stage, from our level 8 program that's been running since 2016. And we have 15 facilitators who teach and assess on that program, some of them with us this evening. And in terms of this master's that we developed, it was based on demand and on surveys that we carried out. And we're delighted to say that it's the first master's in the area of domestic sexual gender-based violence in the country. And there is really great interest in it. The program itself, it was developed very much as a collaborative endeavour with the River Project team, the Department of Nursing, Midwifery and Early Years, the section of midwifery were involved. As I mentioned earlier, Move Ireland, which is the Men Overcoming Violence organisation. And we also had our curriculum documents and modules reviewed by a panel of service users from Women's Aid Dundalk. And that was really helpful and really insightful. And also a youth leader from Bernardo's reviewed. We have a module on children and adolescents in the context of domestic sexual gender-based violence. And they reviewed that module and gave us some excellent feedback in relation to it. So we might just now have a look at the structure of the module. Appreciate this is a very busy slide, so we're just going to focus on the first 3 lines there, because the rest of it we're going to break down into the subsequent slides. So for now, it's just really to, I suppose, highlight the master's itself, Master's in Domestic Sexual Gender-Based Violence. It is 90 credits. You could do a postgraduate diploma in domestic sexual and gender-based violence for 60 credits, or you could do a certificate in DSGBV for 30 credits. So what will make that up are the 10 credit modules, which are listed here, and which we're going to talk about individually. So all of these are 10 credits. So an accumulation of these will build up towards either the Cert, the postgraduate diploma, or the master's. So we're just going to show you in the next slides how that might look. So, for example, from this September, the 2 modules that are on offer from September 2026, so in year 1, semester 1, there's a module called Theoretical Policy and Legislative Context of Domestic Sexual and Gender-Based Violence. And there is one called Trauma-Informed Practice for DSGBV contexts. This module will be partially shared with the module that already runs with the Masters in Community Mental Health Nursing Programme. So there will be some classes shared, and then there'll be others which are provided individually, basically. And then from January 27, there's a module there, Advanced Studies in Coercive Control. So those 3 in green, if you were to do those 3, you can do them individually and get 10 credits. If you were to do the 3 of them, you could get a certificate in domestic sexual gender-based violence studies. If you were to add the bottom one to it, the research methods for evidence-based practice, which is also a shared module. And on to the next slide, Jonathan, please. So if you were to add that to it, and then onto year 2, there are 2 elective modules here. So you could do either the Sexual Violence, Abuse and Consent Studies module, or the Engaging with Perpetrator module. And the other one that's there in the orange colour background is the Children and Adolescents in the context of DSGBV. So if you were to do what was in green and what's in orange here, that would give you 60 credits, and that would give you a postgraduate diploma in domestic, sexual and gender-based violence studies. If you wanted to continue on and do the full masters, the additional module that you would need to do is the one with the kind of purple background. So it's generating evidence for practice and improvement. Just to let you know, you're probably wondering why healthcare is highlighted. This is an existing module. So this is delivered with the consortium of other higher level institutes, basically. So what we plan on doing in September is we need to get the title of this changed. So it'll be generating evidence for practice and improvement. It's a standard, I suppose, research module, but just maybe the title of it may be off-putting for some of you guys that's on the call here this evening. So that would give you the 90 credits for the masters. In terms of how the program will be delivered, so it will be mainly so there's flexible delivery option. So it'll be a blended approach, mostly 2 hours live lectures online per week, per module. So for most of them, that will be the format, 2 hours. There are exceptions to that, which my colleagues will highlight as we go on. So 2 hours live per week, and generally it's 1 3-hour face-to-face workshop in DKIT. That is the typical layout of each of the modules. Okay, so we're in now to the individual modules, and Anita is going to start with giving you detail of the first module there.
Hi guys, it's great to see so many of you on the call tonight. So I just want to give you a brief overview of this module, which is the trauma-informed practice for domestic, sexual and gender-based violence contexts. So the aim of this module is to provide you with the opportunity to develop your knowledge and your understanding of trauma, and to confidently integrate that theory and principles into your everyday practice. So essentially what we want to provide you with is the what, the why, and the how of trauma-informed practice, specifically related to DSGBV contexts. As Kathleen has mentioned, this is a shared module. So for about 2/3 of the module, you'll be sharing it with a master's in community mental health. And for about 1/3 of the module, then you'll have specific content related to DSGBV services. We've intentionally positioned this in the first semester, this module in the first semester, so that it will help inform all other modules that come after it, that you'll be able to look at everything that you're going to be learning across the program through a trauma-informed perspective. And that's really important because of the vulnerability of the population that we're going to be, speaking about and providing care towards. This is as Kathleen mentioned, a blended module. This module now will be 3 hours per week. It's one of the outliers. There's another module that's 3 hours a week, but most of them are 2 hours a week. So this is online 3 hours a week for about 10 weeks. And we have 2 face-to-face sessions. We have yet to decide whether that will be one day, one full half day, or 2 3-hour sessions on separate days, but we'll inform you of that very early on in the program. The assessment for this, what you'll see across the program is multiple approaches to assessment. That's really to work with learner strengths. So you're going to see a variety of assessment methods. For this module, we're going to have an open book exam, which is essentially you prepare the answers to about 5 questions. And on the final week of the program, we'll ask you to come in and randomly answer 3 of those, but you will have already prepared the 5 questions beforehand. And we also want you, as part of this module, to demonstrate your skills in responding to someone who may be having a difficult time in terms of maybe a trauma experience. And we'll explain all this to you in much more detail when you engage with the module. But it's a fantastic module and really well positioned. And we look forward to engaging with you on it.
Hi everyone, I'm delighted to be able to take you through the next 3 modules, beginning with the theoretical policy and legislative context of domestic, sexual and gender-based violence studies. So as an overview, this module provides an in-depth critical exploration of theoretical frameworks, policy structures and legislative responses to domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. So during this module, we'll be drawn on feminist, ecological, human rights, intersectional perspectives. So we'll really have the opportunity to engage with historical theory development in addition to contemporary theories that influence our thinking in relation to domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. We'll also have the opportunity to really familiarise ourselves with and analyse policy using a national lens, but also looking at what influences this policy and also looking at where our national policies are drawn from an international perspective. And then that brings us nicely then into the legislative landscape of domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. So in terms of delivery, as Kathleen had mentioned there, we will be working to 2-hour live online lectures with some face-to-face workshops as well. So in terms then of the assessment, that will involve a 2,500 word academic assignment, which will be about integrating the theoretical and policy and legislative work that you will engage with throughout the module. Thank you. So that brings me to advanced studies in coercive control, and in thinking about this module, the aim is to develop learners' advanced critical and interdisciplinary understanding of coercive control. And essentially that will begin with exploring the theoretical foundations and also exploring the legislative and policy context before we deepen our understanding of coercive control by focusing on the intersectional and trauma, applying a trauma-informed lens. So this module consists of 5 units, and so having moved from the theoretical and policy and legislative lens, we will then look at the intersection and the cumulative nature of coercive control before turning our attention to perpetrator behaviours, tactics and patterns of coercive control. That then leads us into exploring the impacts and the risks that are associated with the experience of coercive control. And also a critical part of this is looking at the wider systemic impacts. And then drawn towards the end of the module, then we'd be really applying that trauma-informed lens on how to respond and refer appropriately to victim survivors of coercive control. So in terms of the delivery, similarly to the previous module, that will involve 2-hour live online lectures with some face-to-face workshops. In terms of assessment, it's an objective structured clinical examination. And for those who are not familiar with OSCE for short, an objective structured clinical examination is a practical exam that supports you to demonstrate your learning from the module. So a very practical exam that is assessed using a structured format. So that is our module on advanced studies in coercive control. And then the final module that I'm going to talk a little bit about now is children and adolescents in the context of domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. So this module explores the experience of domestic, sexual and gender-based violence in childhood and adolescence. So it takes a very incremental approach to this experience. So beginning with the positioning of children and young people, exploring again the theoretical, policy and legislative context. We then move on to the very varied experiences of children and young people. So we employ an intersectional lens at that point. Then, having established the experience, we turn our attention to the impact. We also pay attention to children and young people's agency and resilience in relation to domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. Having explored the impact, agency and resilience, we then turn our attention to risk assessment and management. And that also includes individual and multi-agency safety planning in the context of domestic, sexual and gender-based violence, which brings us to the last part of the module, which very much focuses on best practice in relation to responding to children and young people in this context. So when we consider then the delivery, similarly to the previous two modules, we would engage in 2-hour live online lectures per week with some face-to-face workshops. So in terms of assessing this module involves a 2,500 word portfolio comprising of 5 parts. So this enables you as a learner to build your knowledge and to demonstrate that during those 5 parts. At the end of your assessment, then you will have a portfolio of your learning that can be used and drawn upon in the future or shared to support your future work with children and young people. So that's those 3 modules. Thank you.
Hi everybody, sorry about that. Stayed on silent there. So yeah, the sexual violence, abuse and consent studies module is the next module. And again, like the others, it's 2 hours live online delivery and some face-to-face workshops. But I suppose the overview, the module aims to develop the learner's advanced understanding of sexual violence. So again, we'll be looking at the different types of sexual violence, looking at consent, theory and policy and how those all intersect. And also looking at, I suppose as the module moves on, the cumulative nature and the individualised and intersectioning pieces that come into play when you're talking about sexual violence and abuse perpetration. As we move through the module, then we're looking at things like survivors' behaviours and tactics and patterns, and issues that would be associated with prevention and intervention measures. Sorry, I'm actually going on to the second module. And then working towards sorry people, I'm getting a bit confused here as normal. So looking at the different pieces like male rape, female rape, what are the differences, and how would you work with each of those? And again, I suppose for the end piece, it's again looking at the ethical part of that and how would you work ethically with survivors, you know, coming from the diverse and different backgrounds that they might present from. And again, the assessment part, it's learners must present and critically discuss key learnings from the module, including an analysis and reflection of the learner's evolving professional identity. So that's the sexual violence module. And then the engaging with perpetrator modules, again, it's very, very similar in terms of the delivery. But I suppose with this one, we'll be looking at just generally how do you work with perpetrators, and I suppose understanding the dynamics that are at play in domestic, sexual and gender-based violence, perpetration and the evidence-based approaches, looking at things like risk assessment, behaviour change. Learners will examine the social and psychological and structural factors that underpin abusive behaviours, and I suppose that will build on some of the work that will probably have been done in the earlier module that Lisa was referencing a little while ago, and then explore the contemporary research in the perpetrator typologies and the development of skills for safe and ethical professional practice within multi-agency environments. This one, again, like Lisa had previously mentioned, it's a practical exam to demonstrate your learning. So it's an OSCE type examination at the end. And that's it, yeah.
Hello everybody, I'm going to talk about the last two modules in the postgrad diploma and then the master. So the first one is research methods for evidence-based practice, and this is a module that will focus on the research process, focus on the components and the skills needed to do a systematic review, which is part of the generating evidence module. And it's this module is delivered in semester 2 of first year, so January to May. And in that, you're probably, most people will be coming with a kind of a broad idea of the research process and how to carry out research. This is taking it a step further in looking at critical appraisal tools, looking at different types of reviews that can be done and getting a wee bit of practical application of using those skills. So whilst it's quite, I suppose when you say the word research, people start to get frightened, but it's given you the skills to be prepared for the generating evidence module in the second year as part of the masters. And the assessment for the research methods module it's a 2,500 word assignment where you do a critical analysis and synthesis of a topic that you're interested in. So it's very much determined by yourself on what topic that you would like to look and see what research is out there on it. And the second part is an open book exam, primarily on the research process. So the contact hours is 2 hours a week for the duration of the semester, and also then you have a workshop during the semester as well. You'll have one in the middle and then one at the end where you actually do the exam, the in-class exam. And this module is shared with, it'll be actually shared with two other programs. It'll be shared with the Masters in Community Mental Health and the Masters in Professional Nursing. So it's a lovely module to have shared learning and interdisciplinary learning, and you'll be in the class with a lot of people from different disciplines, different professions, and everybody's coming with their own take on research and their own chosen topics, and it always has a great discussion point. And it's a good way to prepare then for the final module in the Masters, which is the generating evidence module. So this is, I suppose, this is a 30 credit module, and it's the final module as part of the Masters. So it's a year-long module. So you start this generating evidence in September and you finish it in May. And because we would have done a lot of the theory in the research module, what we do in the generating module is we front load it with content specifically looking at systematic reviews and the type of reviews that can be carried out with regards literature. And then we have 5 sessions of in online classes. And then after that, it is one-to-one supervision with each student would have an assigned supervisor, and it's one-to-one supervision then for the duration of the year. And because you potentially be doing 2 other modules in semester 1, we try to keep it a little bit later in the assessment. So the assessment of this module is divided into 3 components. One is a presentation, and the presentation is really to focus you as the learner to the topic that you're chosen, that you're going to do your review on, and to get a head start on like your search strategy, and to look to see what the amount and the level of evidence that's available on your chosen topic. And it's just to kind of present what you're going to be doing, the type of review, and then the topic. And then that's worth 20%. And then the literature review itself. So some students do a systematic review, some will do a integrated review, some will do a scoping review. It really depends on your topic that you choose. And that is the literature review is worth 60%, and that is submitted in May time. So you'll be working with your supervisor throughout from the outset, but particularly from after Halloween until May on your literature review. And then the third component is to prepare your literature review for submission to a peer-reviewed journal for publication. You don't have to submit it, but it's preparing that. So again, you would choose a suitable journal that would be applicable to your discipline, and then you would prepare your publication. So your scope and review, and you use the guidelines of your chosen journal to write up. And normally what happens is the literature review itself, so the main assessment would have quite a high word count, and then the literature review or the preparation for the publication is a shortened version of your overall systematic review, but it's to use the guidelines, and that's worth 20%. And that's good, because then some people will go on and submit their review for publication, which has happened in the past, which is great. So they're the last two researchy modules to get you over the line for the masters, the postgrad diploma, and then the masters. So I suppose if I just carry on then for the fees and the entry criteria. So individual micro-credentials. So for any of the modules that you can study them individually, the fee for those are €650 each. The certificate, so if you're doing the 30 credit certificate, the fees for that is €1,900. And then the postgrad diploma, which is essentially 3 semesters, so it's a stage 1, semester 1 and 2, and then you'll be finished the postgrad diploma the December of the following year, and the fees for those are €3,800. And then the MSc itself, so the full 2-year MSc, is €6,000. There is an opportunity for payment of them. You don't pay the full thing all at once. So like any other program, admissions have said that you can pay 50% initially, and then in increments pay the second half of the fees over the course of the year. The entry criteria, applicants should have a full level 8 qualification, which is an honours degree, normally with a minimum of a 2-2 relevant an award, or an equivalent qualification in a relevant discipline. For those who may not have a full level 8 qualification, who may have a level 7 qualification, or what you can do is you can apply for recognition of prior learning, and that is looked upon and assessed on an individual basis. And for anyone who may potentially be deemed suitable to go on and study at level 9, you may be asked to be interviewed to determine whether you're suitable for the programme or not. And I suppose that's the normal criteria for entry onto a level 9 for someone that maybe doesn't have a level 8 qualification. As with any other programme, there will be an induction at the beginning of the program, or the beginning of the course, and the way that will be organised for anybody who will be applying and will be coming onto the programme, we'll be in touch with regards to the induction at a later date. But there will be an induction at the start of every programme. We have induction sessions. So, and the final thing is how to apply. So the good news is for the postgrad diploma and the masters, the online portal is now open and is active for you to submit your applications. And for the micro-credentials, so the individual modules, and for the certificate in the certificate programme, the 30 credit module, the applications will be open. The portal for those applications will be open in the next couple of days. So, and in the once you go online, you register to apply for a programme, and then you'll upload your CV and any other supporting documents. So maybe your transcripts or your certificate from your degree programme, and your CV is important as well, to give an idea of the discipline that you're from, what profession you're working in, and your experience with regards domestic DSGBV. And also, especially for anybody who may not have the level 8, it's important to get your CV and your previous qualifications up in that portal. So I think that's everything. Is there? Kathleen, do you want to finish off, or do you want me to finish off?
Sorry, if I unmute, I can possibly finish off. Yeah, thanks very much, Breach. Thanks everybody. So yeah, so a lot of information provided there. Just to reassure you, it's over 2 years. You have 2 years to do all that. Yeah, you can put in any queries through the website directly. There's a portal and a page there. Those queries come to me, or you can email me directly. You can see my email address there. We've also put together actually a list of frequently asked questions. We're just finalizing that. So we'll put that onto the website as well in the next day or two. So you know, feel free to have a look through it before you send in your query, because you most likely have a similar query to others that have submitted them as well. So I think that is the information giving. So what we'll do now is we'll engage with yourselves, and I think Jonathan is going to monitor the questions, and we'll take them as they come.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring everybody back onto the screen here, back into our Brady Bunch format. No, there's a first question through there, Kathleen. So I'll just read them out as they come in, just to kind of make this easier. This is from Marie. She says, "I'm curious about the reasoning behind having to choose between sexual violence abuse and consent, or engaging with perpetrators." So
yeah. I think that's a pretty good question, and one that's probably getting smiles around the table here, because it is something that we had a lot of discussion about, and a lot of thought went into it, and probably ultimately it came down to credits. We obviously had to work off 90 credits, and we had too many modules, and there was a lot of decisions made in terms of what we had to keep and what we could let go, and nobody wanted to let go anything for obvious reasons. All the modules are really relevant, and it probably was quite timely. It coincided with the time of our conference in January, and we put a live survey out to the 200 members of the audience on that day to see if there would be a preference for any particular module, or was there anyone that got less preference, and there wasn't. They were all equally important, basically. So anyway, long story short, we made the decision that that might be the most likely, you know, people maybe that wanted to undertake that module in relation to perpetrators. They may not necessarily want to do the other one. It could be argued in lots of different directions, as we did, the program development team, but ultimately that's what it fell down between those two being elective. I don't know if anybody else wants to come in and add anything to that.
Okay, maybe I'll just go on with the next part. Marie's got a few questions there. So, so next one is there funding available for the MSc? So I know it's been touched upon, but maybe Kathleen or Bree, you could answer that one.
I suppose at the moment, the short answer is not at the moment. There may be, and we certainly will let you know as soon as we know, but just we don't have any confirmation of it just yet.
And the last question there is there a facilitation skills aspect incorporated into any of the modules?
I'm not entirely clear of the meaning of that question.
Okay, Marie, maybe if you want to put again just in the questions then, and we can maybe circle back on that one. Just a couple more questions coming in. Does the entirety of the masters have to be paid within the first year or over the 2 years? So maybe Breeze, if you could explain just the payment and how that works again.
So it's 6,000 for the 2 years. So it would be essentially 3,000 each year. My understanding is that you can pay 3,000 each year, so it would be 1,500 to be paid by the end of October, and then the following 1,500 by the end of the first year, and then the second year the same. So it can be done over 4 increments, really.
Okay, thank you, Breeze. There's one from Eva there. What is the closing date for applications? Or is it first come, first serve? So how does it work with the applications coming in?
I think it's first come, first served, Jonathan.
Just thinking it might be something might be worth putting it on the website actually as well. Yeah.
So there's another question in there. The postgraduate 30 credits, do you have to do the research module or not? I think. Yeah, Breeze, you could answer that one.
For the postgrad diploma, yes. Yeah, it's part of the postgrad diploma, so you do the research module.
But for the 30 credit, for the 30 credit postgraduate,
no. The postgrad diploma for the certificate, no. Postgrad diploma, yes.
The first research module, though, not the big research module. Yeah.
Okay. Another one, a question in: can you choose to do the postgrad and then make a decision to do the masters, or do you have to apply to the masters from the get-go?
No, you can apply, and again, sometimes it comes down to funding. If somebody is being funded by their employer, in experience, they may be funded for the postgrad diploma, and then they come to do the masters, and they decide that they want to go ahead and they negotiate then. So you can apply for the certificate, and at the end of the certificate, you decide that you want to go ahead and do the postgrad diploma. That you can get a transfer for that. There's a bit of logistical paperwork that has to be done, and the same for the postgrad diploma. You can register initially for the postgrad diploma and then move on to the masters.
And then I'll just preempt another question then. Can you do it in reverse? Can you choose to do the masters and fill out for the postgrad? Okay.
Yeah, that has happened. Yeah, okay. So it's like taking well, you can do for a transfer to come out of it, or if you finish the postgrad, you get to the postgrad, I suppose the masters, you're doing 2 postgrad diploma modules plus the generating evidence, so that decision would have to be made before you go into the 3rd semester as such, but you can go the opposite way.
A couple more questions there. How many places are on the masters?
There is no fixed number, because it's online. For most of it, there would be, I suppose, you're better to have a minimum of maybe 10 people. But that could be an accumulation of people who are on the certificate, the postgrad diploma, and the masters, just for engagement in that. But there's no fixed number.
And if you do micro credentials, can you add them together in the end to apply for the certificate, or how does that work?
You can do, so say for example, somebody does the first 2 modules as standalone modules. What they would have to do then is apply and register for the certificate. And then when you apply and register for the certificate, the student would apply for recognition of prior certified learning. And what they would do would be they would get exemptions for those 2 modules, and they would only have to do the 3rd module for the certificate. The same way for the postgrad diploma. So if, say for example, they do the student does the first 3 modules over a period of time, and then they decide they want to do the postgrad diploma, they can apply for the postgrad diploma and then apply for exemptions of those 3 modules. And the same for the masters. The only, I suppose, just to make people aware, is if you are applying for the masters, so the masters is currently graded like a first class honours, a 2-1, 2-2, the award grading of that. If you apply for exemptions on the masters, you will get unclassified master. You'll still get your masters, but it's unclassified, so you don't necessarily get a first class honours 2-1, 2-2. You still get your GPA and all that, but on the certificate it's unclassified because you can't get awards for modules that you've already done previously. So yeah, but we've had students on other masters that have done that, and they're quite happy. They want to get the exemption because they've done the module before. There is, I saw a wee bit of advice from the registrar with regards, how long would it take you? So he has advised that if somebody is stacking modules, again, each module, when you're applying for recognition of prior certified learning, you're looking at each person's individual application. And say, for example, now we're only starting this now, but just say, for example, in 4 or 5 years' time, somebody decides they want to apply for the master's component and they're looking for exemptions. What we do in that process is we actually look at the module that they studied and look at the module that is currently being delivered and see if there's a mapping job. So there's a bit of, there's a wee bit of work for us to look to see, but primarily if it matches up, then, you can use that. And it's normally, what he said is normally within 5 years, because every 5 years, as you know, Jonathan, we update our program. So the module, it might have a similar name, but the content could be completely different. So that's why each person is looked at individually.
Okay, no problem. That's great. Thanks, Breeze. Another question in here then. The online classes, are they in the evenings? So is there a time period you maybe have already for the classes? Has timetabling been done, or is that when does that be done? Just maybe Kathleen, you can give a bit of clarification on that.
No, they are daytime. They're during the day, Monday to Friday. Okay. I suppose maybe in terms of the days, the days are from September to December. The days are Thursdays. And then from January to May, they are Tuesdays. And for year 2, it's Tuesdays. But it's Thursdays from September 26th until December.
Okay. Okay, so we're getting just a wee bit more about the question earlier we had about facilitation skills. So our staff to guide deeply sensitive conversations, challenge harmful power dynamics, and create safe environments for survivors. And with perpetrator programs, strong facilitation allows workers to deconstruct rigid gender roles and address the minimization of violence without shaming participants. So this goes back to the earlier question about a facilitation skills aspect in the modules. So if that maybe sort of, I don't know if that means anything to anyone there of the presenters here.
I can talk about the trauma, sorry, Michelle, because the trauma-informed care module is in semester 1, we actually have an advanced healthcare practitioner delivering those sessions on the how of trauma-informed care. So we have expert practitioners actually facilitating how you can help someone who is actually feeling traumatized or has experienced a re-traumatization event. So the trauma-informed module will have facilitation skills in it. Michelle?
Yeah, and I think the very same for the perpetrator module. It will have skills aimed at working on a one-to-one basis with perpetrators for sure. Just basic skills around how you would go about deconstructing those pieces around beliefs, minimization and denial. Obviously, that'll be very, very core to the modules.
Yeah,
okay,
and it just
adds
to that. Sorry, Jonathan, do you mind if I just add, similarly with the coercive control module and the children and young persons module as well. So again, that would be very much a focus on create environments where disclosure is possible, and how to respond appropriately and really channel best practice in relation to that.
Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Another question, and then can you pick your 30 credits for the certificate, or must you take those first 3? So she said, for example,
there are 3 compulsory modules, aren't they, Kathleen? Yeah, the elective modules are part of the postgrad diploma and masters, Jonathan.
Okay. There's another question in the chat, which I'm just flicking through between both. Somebody who's completed the new coercive control course at 10 credits, does that mean they can get exemption for that module or for that piece of the course? How does that work?
Is that the new micro-credential that has we did this semester, I'm assuming?
I would assume so, yeah.
Just to say that's just 5 credits. Sorry, Breach, go on ahead.
It's it's level 8 as well. So no, you wouldn't get exemptions for that micro-credential because it's not at the level 9 and it's only the 5 credits.
maybe, sorry, Breach, maybe just to add to that, because I have actually got a lot of queries about this, and I know some of the people on here this evening have completed our Level 8 Certificate in the Fundamentals of Understanding and Responding to Domestic Sexual Gender-Based Violence. That one is a 20 credit one. So for that, okay, it's a Level 8, but the people may gain entry onto the Masters through the RPL, Recognition of Prior Learning. But again, like Breach said earlier, they would most likely be called for interview because their experience in relation to DSGBV and working in that area would be taken into consideration for that one.
And I suppose just to add to that, sorry, Jonathan, just to add to that, that's why the CV is really important for anybody who maybe doesn't have a full Level 8 and has done the Level 8 20 credit to, you know, I suppose to demonstrate in the CV your experience and, you know, whatever field of work you're working in, you know, of where, you know, where you found yourself with the Level 8, albeit the 20 credits, but your experience to date would be really important. So that's why the CV is really important.
Okay, a couple more questions here. Are classes recorded in case you miss one for the online ones?
Generally not is the short answer, and we know there's pros and cons for that. Generally, the rationale for that in the context of these topics is the really sensitive nature of the topics, and also the rich peer learning and discussion that goes on in the class between peers and with the lecturer as well. So generally not is the short answer to that.
And then there's another query about sort of the day of the week. So someone said, can I ask, is it all day Thursday? The course is in September to December with different modules. So are there days set aside for this? Or do you have any idea at the time, you know, at this stage, what days and what times of the day it'll be? And if not, when will that be available?
So on Thursday, so the two modules in September to Christmas. So the trauma-informed care is from 9 to 12, and then the second coercive control, is it?
No,
the
theoretical policy.
It's a 2-hour module, so it would be 1 to 3. So they'll either be so 9 to 12 and then 1 to 3 online on a Thursday, and then for the module, say there's 2 modules and they're 2 hours, they're normally 9 to 11 and then 11:30 to 1:30. So it's, you know, because it's hard to be online for a full day, you know, that's in itself, you know, you need a lot of you need a good attention span to keep online for a full day. So they're normally 2 hours with the exception of the trauma-informed care, and it is the 3 hours. So it works out well, because 9 to 11 and then have a break and then 11:30 to 1:30. That would be the normal kind of run of things.
Okay, thanks, Breach. And if we don't have that on the website and on the web pages, we'll get that updated just to kind of make that clarify the exact times for each of the modules, just so it's up there as well. One more bit, just I suppose if anyone has any more questions, you can fire them in. One question we do get asked about, and Breeze, maybe you'll know the answer to this one. If someone's employer is going to pay for this, what's the process for that?
I think I'd have to double check on that, Jonathan, now, but I think admissions, there's a form that is filled in, and then the invoice is sent to the employer for payment. But I'll double check on that, and we can put that, if anybody has that specific query, we can come back to them, Jonathan.
Okay, that's maybe one more we can include on the web page and on the FAQ as well. We'll have on the web page as well. Okay. I don't think there are any. Sorry, there's one more there. If a face-to-face is missed, is there a way to make it up?
Depends on what's covered in the face-to-face. I suppose for I suppose my modules, the research and the generating, well, not so much the generating evidence, but the research is applying. It's an opportunity to apply in practice what you have done online, so the likes of the critical appraisal process where you're actually doing critical appraisal within the workshop environment. So there wouldn't be an opportunity to repeat it, but you're not, I suppose I'm saying you're not learning anything new, you're applying the knowledge that you would have covered in the previous weeks. That's for my modules. I'm not sure about the other modules now for the trauma.
Yeah, so for the trauma module, we're looking at those workshops to have some input on the assessment strategy, and certainly the second workshop will actually be part of the assessment strategy. So in respect to that, if that's unavoidably missed, that's difficult, but you know, that's something that we can work with individual students with. But certainly for the trauma-informed module, it's looking at how we will actually assess your knowledge and skills in both of those workshops.
Okay, there's another question that's come in from Marie. Cheeky question, it is a cheeky question, but I'll put it out anyway. Would Kuhn help fund the cost of this? Kathleen, I know there's, well, at the moment there's no funding available, basically, is kind of what we're saying at the moment.
No.
Yeah, so no, at this stage, no, there's not any help for the costs, no, from that side. I don't see any more questions coming in. If anyone has any more, oh, there's one more. Is the MSc on the website? Yes, it is. All the courses that we've talked about tonight are all on the website. So the MSc, you would go in through Postgraduate as well as the PG Dip in that, yeah, and you'll find it from there. They'll be green coloured for the School of Health and Science, so they'll be available there.
And Jonathan, it might be worth mentioning, just if they're making an application to choose 2006, so you create like a login and you choose 2006 program or 2026 programs and postgraduate thought, and then the list will come up and you should see then the one that you're interested in terms of domestic, sexual and gender-based violence.
Yeah, and at the moment, if you're going to fill that in tonight, it will be under the it's under science, the heading of science rather than nursing. That probably will change in the next couple of days, but if you're going to apply and you want to start your application tonight, you will click on the science, food and animal health section, and you will find the two courses in there. That won't be the case in a couple of days' time, but at the moment that's where it is. If you wanted to kind of get started with your application in the next day or two,
it's like a treasure hunt.
Another question then, I suppose, with Kathleen, probably for you, will this open up every September, or is this is a wait and see job?
Sorry, will it open, is it?
Yeah, so will this be running every September?
Oh, that depends on these guys. Yeah, if we have sufficient numbers, yes, is the answer. Certainly based on the queries and the level of interest and all the talk about it, it seems to me like it will run every September. Yeah, I'd be confident that it will. Okay,
I think we're kind of coming up nicely just to the hour there. So yeah, maybe Kathleen, if you just want to kind of do a wrap up and just kind of say if anyone's got any queries then at that point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much, Jonathan. This was just to thank my colleagues for joining me on the webinar this evening. Particular thanks to Jonathan, who's done a lot of background work to this and for facilitating it this evening as well. And thank you so much for giving up your lovely summer evening when you could be off walking and doing barbecues and doing all sorts of nice things. Thanks so much for joining us. It was great to see so many on. So any particular queries, as I said, you can put them in through the website, or you can email me directly, kathleen.nallen@dkit.ie. And we hope to see you all in September. Okay, that's great. Okay, thanks so much. That's it, is it? That's all the queries, is it? Yeah, everybody in? Yeah. It's just, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.